recorded. And I want to welcome everybody to our annual presentation of so many great updates during the middle of Kalamazoo Bike Week. I don't know, Megan, what have we been doing this for at least 5-7 years, maybe longer?
Yeah, I want to say it's been at least 5 years. I know I've been with cats for 8 years, so it can't be more than that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've been doing it before then, even when Steve Stepek was knee-high to a grasshopper working with John Start. But with that friendly greeting, I hope you all find it friendly. I am going to get the main show going here. And in doing that, I'm actually going to show off, hopefully I'll show off a new skill that I've learned, sharing the screen. And also I figured a way to get some annoying blobs off the screen. Give me just a moment here. This old dog has had to learn so many new tricks that it's really been fun. Let's see if I can figure out the right combination of button presses here. And has that done anything? Oh, not yet. Now it will. Presto. So I will need to hear someone during the presentation to tell me if the screens are looking okay. And I want to, after welcoming everybody and starting introducing the speakers, I would like the speakers to remind me to change the slides. I have not quite figured out how to give control over the meeting to each of you, but I think this will work. And again, welcome to Local Bicycling Developments 22 and beyond. This year's theme I have to hand to Megan Mickelson, our co-host from the Kalamazoo Area Transportation Study, the theme of building bike-friendly communities. Sort of let's look at the basic building blocks, and many of your presentations will be doing that. How do we build bike-friendly Kalamazoos? What are bike-friendly communities? What are the building blocks? And to do that today, we're going to hear from a variety of just top-notch presenters and looking at the things that they have been working on, giving us a briefing in a very rapid fire format. And so I'm going to do my part to move things along. We won't have time, as per our usual tradition of introducing ourselves, because our hallmark is being friendly in our meetings and congenial. But today, we're going to share the welcome on behalf of your host, Bike Friendly Kalamazoo, and Megan will have her chance to say hello during her presentation as well. But Megan, do you want to say hello from cats?
Yes, hello everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining this year's presentations. I'm really excited for the topics that we have to share this year. And I want to apologize ahead of time for the toddler noise in the background and any baby noises you may hear when I present.
Okay, thanks, Megan. We've already mentioned that there's going to be so many topics and speakers really going to be worth our while today. For that reason, I think we better hold our questions until the end. So take notes. If you'd like to use the comments function, you're welcome to do that. It may be difficult to address anything as the presentations are flowing though. With that, I'll just say a quick word about Bike Friendly Kalamazoo. Our mission is to help make our greater community even more bicycle friendly. We've been around for over a decade now. We're 501c3. And we organize things like Kalamazoo Area Bike Week and the Fall Bike Celebration with the help of so many wonderful volunteers and organizations and sponsors. Give you a quick update on Bike Friendly Kalamazoo's programs, the kind of things we work on. We are currently chairing the Cross-Jurisdictional Bicycle Program Steering Committee that meets quarterly. We've made tremendous progress in terms of our bike visibility campaign with a number of jurisdictions participating in making their citizens aware and even distributing free blinking taillights and headlights to those who may need them. We now have got not just one certified league cycling instructor in our greater community, we have 6 after a couple of years of working very hard with a number of our partners from around the state and locally. And maybe Kathleen Hoyle will have something to say about that later. I'll just skip over some of these other things, but we always have a mind toward diversity. And I don't know why the screen just flipped like that, but I'll try to get it flipped back. Can you see the slides, or has it gone back all of a sudden? Okay. Just get that back very quickly. We have all been down this road before where things happen unexpectedly during these kind of Zoom meetings. Let's see here. So
That's going back. There you go. You're back, Paul.
thank you. And I'll even get rid of those gray spots. You'll hear about some of the new programs we're embarking on today. And many of you are also familiar with our scholarships and grants and our civic leadership awards. And with that, I'd like to introduce Kathleen Hoyle, who's going to be with us talking about how Portage earned its Silver Bike Friendly Community Award. Kathleen, can you see your first slide?
I can, thank you.
Just keep reminding me of when you would like them switched.
Okay, sounds good. So you can go ahead and switch right now. So one thing I wanted to talk about is that we've been working on the last 5 years. Somebody's got their mic not muted.
Let's see, I'm going to have to ask everybody to mute your mics, please. Except for Kathleen, of course.
I think, oh, there you go, that worked. So we've really been working quite a bit over the last 5 years on the Bike Friendly Community Award. We started out with bronze. This is the chart that's actually on the website for Bike Friendly, the Bike Friendly Award, but you can tell it goes from bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. So we started at bronze, we're now at silver, and then we're going to be moving toward gold. Go ahead, Paul. So one of the things that you get if you haven't done this before is our bronze level. You do get a report card basically from them, and it gives you rankings in a number of different categories, but it also gives you kind of your key steps to silver. So we really started following this template on how we went from bronze to silver. Go ahead. So there's really 4 components now, and they're changing it again, but when we went to silver, there's 4 components. So one of them is evaluation and planning. It really did take us 5 years, because you do this every 5 years, to implement a lot of the different functions they wanted to see to be a silver level. A lot of it was about planning. So designated staff we had to have a designated staff that actually worked on cycling. It ends up being a number of people's jobs, but it still comes out to one FTE. The other part that Paul was just talking about is the LCI certification, the league cycling instructor. So this past couple of years, we did the smart cycling, which is a prerequisite. And then we did the LCI certification, because there's 2 parts to getting that. We're going to be working on offering those classes again. But one of the things they wanted was for us to have an LCI certified staff person. So we'll put more people through and get two. But things like formed a bicycle advisory committee, add a bike plan to our recreational 5-year plan, increase funding. We've started a bike count program. We also did a lot of cross-referencing on bike equity. Where is our trails not or bikeways? Where do they need connections? How are people getting on? Where's our transit connections? So we looked at a lot of that kind of data when we're starting to plan out our trails and bikeways. And we also integrated crash data. And I have to say all the programs and the different initiatives that Bike Friendly Kalamazoo has offered has really helped us do this. They did the crash data, they do the scholarships for the LCIs, the bike light giveaway, the mini grants for things. All of these things that Bike Friendly Kalamazoo is offering are ways to help you achieve a lot of this. Go ahead, Paul. So this is just a sample. We use an eco counter now that really is more of the recreational riders on the trails. And it helps us understand where our loads, when people are out there using the trails. And then next, Paul. We also use Strava data, which tends to be more people using the bikeways, not always. There is a cross between the two. So we're starting to looking at those cross between the bikeways and then the off-road trail data to start to understand more about the use, who's using and how they're using the trails. Go ahead, Paul. The other segment is encouragement. So how are we mainstreaming bike culture into Portage? Bike light giveaways was a big part of it. We need to get more businesses that are bike friendly business. There's two categories, bike friendly community and then bike friendly businesses. Pedal they're at gold level. Portage actually became a bronze level this year. So that was one of the things that helped us. That was a checkoff box. We created the Move Portage program, which is about businesses. We give them a sticker if they at least have bike racks and some amenities for cyclists, and then they get some advertising and promotion. We really enhanced our outreach on bike to school, bike to work, and bike week. We put a whole new wayfinding signage program in, and we did a marketing program. Go ahead, Paul. So Move Portage, basically it's the amenities, and then we give them marketing support on top of that. Go ahead, Paul. Education, the motorists, education is the third element. So motorist awareness and bicycle skills is a big part of that. So we did host the LCI training. We did a lot of different bike events, and we had to enhance our website with this Share the Road, and we called it Share the Road Portage. But on there are things like bike laws, safety guidelines. How do you put your bike on the Metro Transit so that we can look at multimodal use? So we did a lot of this kind of stuff over the last 5 years. Go ahead, Paul. Education programs, we really beefed it up. We're actually looking at more this year. They've been very popular and they're growing. There's a lot of people interested in cycling and cycling classes. Next. The other part of it is engineering. So they want to know how you are putting your network together and connecting and what kind of facilities you have. So we've added more bikeways and off-road trails. Probably a big boost for us this year was opening a bike share rental. There were a lot of questions about that. And then next time we do this, they're going to want a lot of comparative data. But switching our water fountains in the parks to actually having bottle filling capability on them. All the parks now have bike racks. We've added bike repair stations and continue to increase. Again, that's another bike friendly assistance with a donation with the group. Air stations also. So they're really looking at, are you catering to the cyclist within your infrastructure? So, and these are all questions. Off-road connections, are you still continuing to build? So number one is our East Central Trail between Lover's Lane and Portage. I'm working on that now. Hopefully that will be in place by next spring. The second one, we're still working on Austin Lake Trail on the property acquisitions. And the third one is going to be the Sprinkle bypass, which is going to go from Lexington Green Park down to Ramona Park. So that'll give us connectivity all along the east side of the city. Go ahead, Paul. So far we've got 41 miles of bike lanes, 23.6 miles of off-road. They do look at this in relationship to your population, your per capita per, so those are pointed up. and then what your planning is going to be. So we've got 8 more miles planned through 2027. At least this is for off-road. There will be more with bikeways. Go ahead. So this is the last slide. So basically that's what we've done, but it did take 5 years. So we just achieved our silver. Now we're looking toward gold. It's going to take us another 5 years to be looking at it, because even though we started with some infrastructure, they're going to be looking at now how we got that baseline and how we're growing it, adding to our planning, beefing up our bike plans. How are we using the collection data now that we're collecting it? So it becomes tougher to achieve that. There's things, the 4 categories. Now, this is the 4 categories they had before, but they did take it offline to change some things. So we'll see how they're going to offset that. These are all items we came up with that either build off the things that we accomplished for silver. And there are also things on that second page I showed you where they've got the scorecard of things they suggested that we do to enhance getting to gold. So we've got pretty much what we're going to be doing over the next 5 years to hopefully get gold. So it is a lot of work. It's worth it. We're really dedicated on cycling, so we're committed to doing this. Thank you.
Kathleen, thank you so much for an excellent presentation. It's really eye-opening. I'm going to ask whether Patrick Hershberger is with us. He needed to join us midstream. And Patrick, if you're here, let me know. If Patrick's not quite here yet, I'm going to go on to Matt Penniman. Oh, Patrick, are you here?
I am here.
Okay. It's really my pleasure to introduce Patrick Hershberger, who's he'll introduce himself, but he'll be talking about public bike murals are coming. Patrick?
Hi, everyone.
I can hear you, and you'll have to just ask me when to change your slides, Patrick.
Very good. I am ready for the slide.
If
You know, I can't see anything on the screen, so I'm just going to start in with an introduction. So my name is Patrick Hershberger. I am the chair this year for Bike Friendly Kalamazoo Bike Art Committee, and I am pleased to be working with this group this year in a non-voting advisory role. We are gracious for Paul Selden, Bill Adams, and Randy Shaw's assistance and hard work on this. The committee currently, myself, I am also the chair of the Kalamazoo County Public Art Commission. I'm joined by Lori Knapp of Portage City Council, Dustin Black, Note Shift Kalamazoo, David Yarl, Senior Principal at Eckert Wardell, Nicole Lee, Artist of Color Initiative, Lisa Brayton, Portage City Council, Alicia Siebers, Vicksburg Cultural Arts Center, Patrick Jopie, Kalamazoo Public Library, Sarah Joshi, Galesburg City Manager, and Doug Foy from the Park City Commission. I do have some updates from the committee.
Patrick, may I just jump in for a second?
Sure.
And I need to hear from anyone whether you're able to see the PDF slide presentation that's now on the screen.
It's all gray.
No,
Okay.
great.
Let me try to get that. What I understood is that people were not able to see that.
That's correct.
How about now?
Hey.
Got it.
Okay, Patrick.
All right. Well, I'm Patrick Hershberger. I am the 2022 BFK Art Committee Chair. I'm also the chair of the Kalamazoo County Public Art Commission. I'm a public artist and illustrator. You can go ahead and switch to slide, Bill. Paul, excuse me. So just a minute ago, we went over the committee members. These are the committee members current for 2022 BFK Art Committee. If we could go to the next slide. I think we're on the a
Potential
different
mural locations.
yeah. I think we're on a different PDF, unfortunately, Paul.
Well,
But that's okay.
let's
continue to
roll
go.
with it, I
Yeah,
guess.
let's roll with it. So let's go over on some updates. We have some recommendations and formal greetings to 2 potential businesses of interest. We have a 6-step process outlined for surface locations and recommendation of sites for the public murals, now available for review at fallbikecelebration.org. Although we have not received formal permission for media release on grants, we've received roughly $7,000 in grants and potentially $8,000 in kind. Potential site locations are located in the city of Kalamazoo, the city of Portage, and the village of Vicksburg. Could we go to the next? I think there's one on food. And what does a mural about the joy of cycling represent? The joy of bicycling is multidimensional and should be weighed as such. How many boxes are checked, both emotionally and behaviorally? Messaging might include, but not limited to, riding a bike, bicycles, and how they're welcome in the community. Being careful driving around cyclists, smiling at a cyclist, teaching your kids to ride a bike, volunteer at bicycle events, and better bike facilities. I look forward to how the Bike Art Committee continues to interact with the public, property owners, and artists on this journey to create public art about the joy of cycling. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Patrick. And this will be an unfolding process. We're lucky to have Patrick as the chair of Bike Friendly Kalamazoo's Bike Art Committee because he brings so much to the table with his own experience as a local and very prominent muralist, as well as being the chair of the Kalamazoo County Public Art Commission. And with that, I need to ask someone which screen you're looking at. Are you looking at the PowerPoint again? Are we back to the agenda?
Agenda.
Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce my friend Matt Penniman from the League of Michigan Bicyclists. He's our communications director and so much more. Now, let's see. I have a feeling I may not get to the, oh, there we go. Matt, are you in the room?
I am. Thank you so much, Paul, for the introduction. Yeah, I'm Matt Penniman. I'm Communications and Advocacy Director for League of Michigan Bicyclists. We've been around for a little over 40 years now as the statewide advocacy group working to improve life through bicycling. And I just wanted to share a little bit with you today about what we're doing legislatively with state government right now. Next slide, please. For the last several years, we've been advocating for hands-free bills, which would make it illegal to hold your phone in your hand for a phone call, Facebook, Netflix, taking video, whatever. Many states have these laws in place already, including our neighbors in Indiana. So if you drive down to Indiana, you will notice signs that say, you may not hold your phone while you drive in Indiana. We would like to get that law in place in Michigan. A set of bills, bipartisan bills, was introduced, House Bills 4277, 4278, and 4279. Those did pass the House earlier this year in January, and now they are in the Senate waiting for a hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Next slide. So these are the committee members for the Senate Judiciary Committee, together with their districts. So you can see a fair chunk of the state, not the whole state, not Kalamazoo County, but a number of counties and areas around the state. So we met recently with staff for the chair of the committee, Senator Roger Victory, and asked for a hearing during Distracted Driving Awareness Month, April. That didn't happen. Victory is also on the Appropriations Committee that was hashing out budget at that point. But we have heard back from Senator Victory's staff that he's heard from a number of people about how important these are, and that they do intend to hold a hearing sooner, pushing for sooner to be as soon as possible. And we will keep you all informed as we learn more about when these bills will come up for a hearing and hopefully move quickly to the full Senate. Next slide. Another piece that we're working on, in the governor's State of the State address, she called for a $2,500 incentive for electric vehicles for cars and trucks. We think that the state should also be doing an incentive for e-bikes, that e-bikes offer many advantages in helping to displace gasoline and give people an alternative to paying at the pump. And they have health and safety and air quality benefits as well. So we are putting together an e-bike incentive pilot proposal and legislative proposal that we are going to pitch to a state agency and to a state senator. I have these draft materials. I've shared them with a few folks around the state. If anyone is particularly interested, I would be happy to share them with you and get your thoughts as well. But we're anticipating in about 2 weeks, having some meetings with legislators and state agencies on getting a pilot incentive put in place. Connecticut and Colorado have both recently passed these. So there is precedent from other states, and I think we have a good shot at putting something together. Next slide, please. We're also looking at, this is kind of a longer term piece, getting legislation introduced that would enable pilot programs for safety stop or stop as yield. A number of states have these laws where people on bikes can treat a stop sign as a yield sign. We would like to enable Michigan cities to pass laws that would do this, to do pilots in their own jurisdictions. I think that there's a lot of skepticism about doing that statewide right now from state police and MDOT. But if we were able to start with the cities and municipalities that are most interested, we could build a case for it and build some momentum. Next slide. We've also been supporting a speed limits bill, HB 4014, which passed the House, had a hearing in the Senate, has not come up for a committee vote yet. We don't know exactly why the committee has chosen not to bring it up for a vote, but we do support this. It would give more flexibility for setting speed limits and set safer speed limits for protecting folks who ride bikes. Next slide. And we have also been speaking up about a bill for autonomous delivery vehicles on sidewalks. While we're not necessarily opposed to well-regulated autonomous vehicles, this particular bill would preempt local regulation completely and force communities to either opt out completely of autonomous delivery vehicles within 90 days of the law being passed, or make it so they would not have any ability to control where these vehicles would be allowed. They could go up to 10 miles an hour, they could be up to 500 pounds, and we think they could pose some hazards for people riding bikes. Next slide, please. And the last thing I'd like to mention today, before I wrap up my time, LMB is organizing a Ride for Peace in several communities around the state, including Grand Rapids, tonight, May 11th. And this is an extension of our Ride for Peace fundraiser, where we've been selling jerseys, stickers, and t-shirts to raise funds for World Central Kitchen for refugee relief in Ukraine. I've been just really pleased with the response from all kinds of folks around the state and really around the country on this project. We've raised over $100,000 total. Some of that will go to expenses for producing the jerseys and so forth. But it's been great to see the outpouring of support for refugee relief. And we'll be celebrating that tonight with a ride in a number of cities. And If you'd like to support, you can check it out at lmb.org/ride-for-peace. And that's what I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I can't say enough good things about the work that LMB is doing, and I encourage anybody who is not yet a member of LMB to give it very, very serious consideration. I know
Thank
I'm
you,
a
Paul.
personal member, and Bike Friendly Kalamazoo is a big supporter of your work. Let me see if I can, so thanks again, Matt, for sharing your work with us. I'm going
Thanks.
to see if I can go back and take a look at our PowerPoint and get back on track as far as that goes. And I think I'm pretty close at this point. It says I'm close. I see Matt on the screen still. Let's see what we can do about getting a clear screen for Sawyer Duncan. First, Sawyer, are you in the audience? I can't see everybody from my view.
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, we're going to hear from Sawyer Duncan now. Sawyer is the president of the School and Health and Physical Educators of Michigan. He's also a teacher in Vicksburg Community Schools, and I'm very happy to say that he is the chair of Bike Friendly Kalamazoo's Education Committee and the first educator, PE teacher, I'll just call you a PE teacher, who implemented the so-called All Kids Bike Kindergarten PE program. And he's going to tell us about his work there and some other things too. So Sawyer, let me know when the screen comes up. I can hear you.
Yes,
And
it went all grainy on there.
Can you see the presentation on the screen now?
No. If you want, I can share my screen. I have the presentation pulled up. I don't know if that makes life easier.
It probably would if you know how to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to give you control over it though, but I do know how to get to your screen.
Okay. Can everybody see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So, like Paul was saying, my name is Sawyer Duncan. This is a presentation I'm putting together for the state conference. So there will be a little bit of stuff that is specifically geared towards physical education teachers. So I'm just going to kind of, if you see me click through a slide real fast, that's just because it's not applicable to kind of this conversation that we're having right now. But I can share this with anybody who would like it. So this is about the All Kids Bike program. It is a kindergarten physical education program for teaching students how to ride a bike. So it's a national movement. I heard about this. I had gotten a random email from a physical education from one of the big generic emails that teachers get, and they had this program in it, and I was kind of looking through it, and it was this national organization, and they showed this documentary about how they started this in the Bronx in New York City. So the program itself, you are shipped 22 of these Strider bikes, which is up here on the right hand side of the screen. When I did it, I went to 25. For Vicksburg Community Schools, our limit for kindergarten is 25. They'll never have more than 25 students per class. So I was able to add 3 more bicycles. With the bike itself, it starts out with the pegs, or they had the balance pieces on it, but and then you are able to fully convert it into a bicycle, like for this young lady right here, where actually it does look like, yep, the gear is in there and it looks like she is actually pedaling. So it works on, the big part of the program is that it has kids starting with just without pedals. So they focus on the balance and being able to stop and kind of steering and pushing off, so that they can kind of slowly, step by step, work towards being able to fully ride a bike. It's an 8-lesson curriculum that is provided. It's a full fleet of bikes. You get a helmet, the pedal conversion kit. So for this, how they shipped it in this bottom picture here was kind of, I think, how they're storing it. But Yeah, so this part is just how a teacher would go through how of adding this program to their school. There is a little bit with the approved for administration. I had to go through our curriculum office. They were 100% for it. They thought it was great. And then you apply with the All Kids Bike, and then from there they can create a donation platform. If I was luckily the Vicksburg Community Schools Foundation fully funded this program for me, so it was about, I think, just over $4,500 for 25 bikes, the curriculum, all of the trainings that we get. But you can crowdfund this. They have All Kids Bike gets larger donations, and they kind of divvy it out equally to everybody that they have. I think before I even had it started, they had done one of the divvying out from one of their larger donations, and I had ended up with like $15, $20 without even having actually put in any work. And then once you are trained, they ship the bikes to you. And then I was able to implement this at Indian Lake Elementary in Vicksburg. Since then, I have changed positions. I'm now teaching middle school health and physical education, but I'm still the coordinator for this program for Vicksburg. So the bikes all shipped. They arrived in these packaging. The bigger boxes kind of here down in the corner were the pedal conversion kits and some of the helmets. They were super easy to put together. You just attach the seat, attach the handlebars, and then I was able to roll from there. The pedal conversion kit, it's a real quick conversion there, and they also come with kickstands. The helmets, part of the program is, which one thing I really liked was that you were taught the 4-2-1 rule with putting on a helmet. So you had 2 fingers for the 4. I don't know if people can see me or not holding up my fingers, but that was to get it over your ears. And the 2 was so that you could put 2 fingers under your chin so that your helmet was secure under your chin. And then the 1 was the 1 click that you would hear so that you knew that your helmet was secure to your head, so that if you were to take a tumble on the bike, you know your helmet's not going anywhere. And then luckily enough, we have an outdoor track there, so I was able to have my students use, actually, we started in our gym, which was about a 21-meter gym. Because we run the pacer test and that's 20 minutes, I know it's 20 meters, or sorry, 20 meters. But so we were able to actually go outside and actually practice our striding. And I have a couple videos in this that I can share this presentation out if anybody would like to see those videos of kind of the kids getting to stride and roll through the school. So here's those videos. I don't know if they'll actually play. I didn't have a chance to quite test this, but I can share this with anybody, and I'll put my email in the chat here once I'm done kind of providing this update. Oh, never mind, the video is just going to take off. But so this does work. I'm sorry, I haven't quite finished this presentation yet, but and then so like I was kind of getting at before, the first step's the no pedals. They have to have balance, and then they create their own momentum. They graduate to a pedal bike to where they can start to use the pedals. And then by the time that we ended up with our last day of the unit, I had, of my 54 students, I had 50 of them, or sorry, not 54. Of my 44 students, I had 40 of them pedaling. And I only had about 5 to 10 that had already previously learned how to ride a bike. So they were a little bit more advanced, but they were able to kind of work on some of their other skills. They have a little bit about very general road safety of, which side of the road should you be riding on, and making sure that you're constantly watching out for cars and things like that as well. Yep, this is just a transition from the pegs to the traditional chain bicycle. Yep, again, the standards to show that it articulates. And then I'll put my actual email address in the chat, but all right, I will stop sharing so that Paul, you can have that back.
Okay.
So that was a very I guess, quick overview of the All Kids Bike program. So as of right now, so it is implemented in Vicksburg Community Schools. It's at 2 of our 3 elementaries right now. So Indian Lake and Toby. Next year it'll be started at Sunset. The PE teacher at Sunset just had a child, so she is not there. So I felt it wasn't the best for the sub to try to teach that. And then since that, myself and Paul have worked with the Vicksburg Foundation and some other people. We have this program being implemented in Climax and Schoolcraft as well. And then I'm working with Harper Creek, and we're starting to get a little bit of a foothold in KPS as well. So hopefully the goal here pretty soon will be that we can have this program across all of our elementary schools in Kalamazoo County, so that all students that graduate from a Kalamazoo County school will be proficient in riding a bike. That was my goal for Vicksburg, and I'm hoping that as the chair for the education committee, we can push that across to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Sawyer. There's so much more we could say about this, but as long as I see Matt Penniman from LMB on the screen, I want to thank the League of Michigan Bicyclists for awarding a mini grant to Bike Friendly Kalamazoo to continue this program. And for those of you who are in the Edison neighborhood, it's very likely that we will have the Edison elementary school added to the program, in part thanks to the League of Michigan Bicyclists. So thanks again, Matt. I think we've got over 45 elementary schools and venues in Bike Friendly Kalamazoo's footprint. And with the help of Sawyer, we're really committed to making it available to as many schools that want it. With that, I will try to get back to where we were. I think we can do that. And I'll use this opportunity to welcome Dustin Black of Mode Shift Kalamazoo. He's going to talk about the cost benefit of mode shifting. Dustin, are you in the audience?
I'm here. Would it be easier for me to share my screen as well? I actually made some
Yeah,
updates.
if you are screen sharing literally, please take over.
No, I'm willing to give it a shot.
Thank you, Dustin. I see it on my screen now.
You can
Got it.
see
Yep,
opening
got it.
slide here. Okay. Well, so my name is Dustin Black. I'm here on behalf of a little community collective called Mode Shift Kalamazoo. We exist to help make walking, biking, and transit the easy choice for everyday transportation. It's great to see so many familiar faces, and I appreciate the opportunity to give a little spiel here. So thanks for the invite. I will do this pretty quickly, but I'm more than willing to chat about anything afterward. So since I was asked to speak about the financial benefits of shifting towards biking as transportation, I thought I'd start with this quote from J.D. Rockefeller, shown here with his trusty bicycle. He seemed to know a thing or two about making sound financial decisions, so I thought I'd see what he had to say. And he says, "The secret to success is to do the common things uncommonly well." And what he's saying here is that the simple things add up. They create a ripple effect that allows the benefits to compound. And what's more common than transportation, right? Well, transportation can be very expensive. At the individual level, our dominant mode of transportation is, of course, the private automobile. Well, almost everyone gets into their car almost every day for almost every trip they take. Well, AAA says the cost to own that car is almost $10,000 per year. That means, on average, Michigan forks over about a third of our per capita income just to have reliable transportation. But there is a better way. I recently completed the 30 Days of Biking Challenge, where you're challenged to ride your bike every day in the month of April and post about it online. I replaced 48 car trips with biking and saved $100 in gas for the month of April. Now, $100 a month isn't going to make anyone rich, but some of the implications of choosing to bike for regular trips can really make an impact. Things really take off when enough people begin biking to affect the local economy. Research has shown over and over again that even though most customers who bike or walk may spend less on each individual trip, they tend to make more frequent trips and end up spending more money overall. Research also shows that these modified spending habits tend to favor more local and independent businesses as well. Just in our own community, just anecdotally, pretty much all the businesses around Bates Alley have seen an uptick in sales since being created as a pedestrian space. And that includes the service-oriented businesses too, not just food and retail. So bikes are really good for business. And it really pays for the businesses themselves to lean into the bike lifestyle. Not only can bike customers increase revenue, but employers can literally cash in on the health benefits associated with biking. There are many local employers who have bike-friendly programs for their employees or are in the process of creating them. And such programs are known to improve employee retention and productivity, but may also mitigate parking needs, and in some cases have even allowed employers to negotiate lower health insurance premiums. There's plenty of opportunity for other businesses and local leaders to do the same. Speaking of local leaders, the benefits of bike-friendly communities extend to public agencies as well. There's a lot of math here that I'm not going to go into today, but it's no secret that roads are expensive. In fact, at today's prices, the average cost of a road over its lifespan is in the neighborhood of $10,000 per mile, per lane, per year. It's an absurd cost. And instead of asking, for more money, every time you see about roads in the news, it's always, we need more money. But perhaps we should be asking ourselves what we're going to do if the money doesn't come. There's nothing more efficient than a community than shifting toward active modes of transportation. It's not even close. And the last thing I wanted to highlight is jobs. Jobs. Everything is a jobs program now, right? And bike infrastructure stacks up really well. Dollar for dollar, there's no better job creator than building bike-related infrastructure. And that's because so much of the money goes to actually paying workers rather than to things like materials, which are manufactured in highly automated processes. Just as a little aside, on this slide, you'll notice that I had to pull this data from 2012. It's actually from the highway lobby themselves, and they no longer publish this report because it's so antithetical to their core mission of highway building. Even they know there's no better job creator than building bike infrastructure. So to circle back, we must understand that we can't be a successful community without doing common transportation uncommonly well. It's one thing for an individual to grind out a daily work commute, and it's quite another for a city to fully integrate bicycle facilities with the community and local businesses. As people and businesses shift, so do our infrastructure needs. These things build off of each other. It's a ripple effect that all starts with the individual. And because it starts with the individual, I want to highlight a couple that are already out there living this lifestyle right now. So here's Mel. Mel is a bike commuter in Kalamazoo. Every morning, Mel packs up her son and bikes him over to daycare and then continues on to her office in downtown Kalamazoo. The humble work commute is a very common thing that she's doing uncommonly well. Adam lives in Portage and has recently purchased a series of trailers for his different bikes so he can pick up the family groceries and run other errands by bikes. He doesn't do this every time, but often enough, and to start creating those ripple effects in our community, and that's really all it takes. Then here's Rachel. Rachel's family sold her second vehicle back in 2014 and have been living the car light lifestyle ever since. And the car light lifestyle is kind of what I consider the holy grail of what I think can be achieved for most families in the Kalamazoo area. Using AAA's cost factor that I mentioned previously, Rachel's family has saved over $80,000 since choosing to commute by bike. Now that's real money. I want to ask you, what could you do with 80 grand? That's a $10,000 vacation you can take every single year. That's money for your children's education. And or it could be a significant boost to your retirement. I'd really encourage you to take some time to do a little visioning about your life and what you want it to look like. I think there's a role for biking in that. And so finally, where do you start? Start small and lean on your network. Start small by using your bike for a few small errands and see where that takes you. Research shows that over a third of all the trips that we make are 2 miles or less. Picking off just 1 or 2 of these trips every so often is a realistic goal for most people. And then lean on your network. Lean on the people in your community, just like we lean on these training wheels when we first learn how to ride a bike. There are many great bike organizations in our community, and this is why they exist. So thank you for your time.
Sawyer, thank you very much for an enlightening presentation. And if we had more time, we would pause right here, but we have to move on. And I'll ask Megan. Megan, do you know how to share your screen? Otherwise, I can call your presentation up. Megan, are you back with us? We will go on then to George Waring and hope to get Megan. Oh, there she goes. Your microphone didn't seem to be on, Megan. I can't.
Yeah, sorry, my baby was screaming. I didn't want everyone to,
Okay.
to hear that.
Please go
Alrighty.
on.
Um,
This is great. Speaking of mode shifting, it's my pleasure to reintroduce Megan Mickelson, the senior planner with the Kalamazoo Area Transportation Studies, and she's going to be talking to us about their multimodal transportation plan, and it has a very, very appropriate name of CATS Moves. Megan?
Yes, so back in 2017 was when we established the CATS Pedestrians Greenways and Transit Plan, which is a guiding document that we use for our other planning documents. So it started off with looking at how 1 in 6 walking trips are made to access transit, and those are very short trips. Biking is a way of expanding the access shed or expanding the distance that people can travel to access transit. So biking is an important aspect of that multi-step trip process. One of the resources that we looked at during our research was the Federal Transit Administration's Manual on Bicycle Connections to Transit. So that was a very useful document. And one of our key takeaways from that was about collaboration. So as an MPO, we work with a lot of local organizations, including transit. So it's important for us to kind of be the person that helps lead this process, so we can help get funding and help get projects underway. So the CATS Pedestrian Greenway and Transit Plan helps facilitate the enhancement of the non-motorized facilities in our area. And this full document is available on our website. Since I'm going to be going through it pretty fast today, if you want to take a further look at it, that is available to you. If you're not familiar, the CATS planning area encompasses all of Kalamazoo County, as well as 4 of the neighboring townships in Van Buren County. So that includes Waverly, Elmina, Paw Paw, and Antwerp. So our process started by looking at the existing conditions that we had for our network and doing some data collection and review. We had public input 3 different times throughout our process, in between different sessions. And then we looked at greenway routes and our implementation strategy before establishing our final report. So we had 3 big project goals. The first one was to make sure that non-motorized facilities were actually integrated with the transit network. It's not going to help that multi-step trip process if you can't actually access transit from those non-motorized facilities. Next, we wanted to identify new greenway corridors and other facility needs to kind of help fill those gaps. And then lastly, we wanted to define the future projects to actually get those needs implemented in the future. Public input was a huge part of this process. As you'll see, we wanted to see how comfortable people were using different non-motorized facilities. We want to actually put our money to good use. So you can see people are more comfortable the more protected the facility is. We also wanted to know what the priorities were for the people that are going to be actually using these facilities. And a lot of people wanted us to make sure we address safety issues that were already happening in the area. So that was a big focus in our document. And then part of our document, like I said, was about the focus areas. We had 5 major ones that we really took our time to analyze and break down, which you will also see in the document. So these were areas that we wanted to really put our effort towards. So the high traffic areas were safer for people to use. So we had a few recommendations. There's different bike facilities, as many of you know, such as buffered bike lanes, protected bike lanes, and there's also facility types such as no bike facilities. It is possible that some areas just are not safe for bike facilities. So it's basically just saying we don't recommend a bike facility in the area because it's not going to be safe for people to use. So that's an important thing to keep in mind as well. So this is kind of an example of what our non-motorized connections to Metro looks like. Again, this is a little bit dated, but this is what we would look at for part of our research, is kind of seeing how those greenways and proposed non-motorized facilities are going to connect to the existing transit routes. Oh, sorry, technical difficulties here. There we go. So some positive changes to the region, which these numbers have also changed since 2017, but we've drastically increased the number of facilities that we have in the area. Sorry, I'm trying to get that out of the way. So we've almost doubled the amount of facilities according to this plan if everything were to be implemented. So again, some focus safety areas were about the number of severe crashes, overall crashes, any clusters if there was a lot of crashes, especially in downtown city areas. And the public input on those locations were very important to us. Here again, you can see some more of the safety focus areas in detail, along with a list of the major intersections where those crashes were occurring. So some countermeasures to help with those crash areas, we're looking at sidewalks and shoulders, redesigning the roadway. If there's some intersection treatments to help slow down traffic to make people more aware of their area, and then improving the crossing areas for pedestrian and bicycle. Can also, like I said, do traffic calming, which can be roadway markers, just simple paint on the road, or you can get real fancy and do fences or curb cutouts. Here's just an example of what a safety focus area will look like in the document. It just breaks down what kind of crashes there are and what we can use to improve those crash areas. So like I said, one of our goals was prioritization to help get those projects built and implemented. So we had a point system for each project. There's a total of 50 points, and it just looks at different ways that we can improve the safety connections to both transit and other non-motorized facilities. So this is just an example of what a map would look like. The high priorities are the darker green and lower priorities are the orange. So it's just kind of what's going to be the best fit for the money in the best time possible. So there's short-term, midterm, and long-term projects based on that scoring system. And part of it too has to do with the funding that is available in the area. So short-term projects, most were located near downtown Kalamazoo and the Western Michigan campus. It fills in a lot of the gaps that currently are in the system. And as you can see, it is very costly. It's estimated that it would be almost $5 million in over 6 years, or $800,000 per year to implement those short-term projects. Here you can just see where some of those would be located. Like I said, most of them were in downtown Kalamazoo because that's where there was a lot of safety issues. And then we just break it down by the list so you can see what kind of facility is recommended and where that project is located. And then, as everyone wants to know, how will this be funded? There are tons of different strategies. With CATS, we have TAP funding and CMAQ funding available. And then there's also other funding that local agencies can look at depending on what type of organization they are and what type of project that they're going to be implemented. But there's definitely options to help get these projects funded. So that is it for my presentation.
Thank you, Megan. It's been a really eye-opening overview of the great work that CATS has done over the years and the encouragement it's provided through its federal funding and prioritization approach to encouraging local agencies to move in the direction of what we might call a complete streets approach, and other things, certainly an integrated multimodal transportation approach. So thank you again, Megan. And that makes for a great segue into George Waring's presentation. And he's going to talk about one of the major makeovers that we know of in our area. I think everybody has heard of the work that the city of Kalamazoo is doing to reshape its landscape and its streetscape. And George, as a senior civil engineer for the city of Kalamazoo, is really doing a great job of helping those plans come about. So George, with that, I'll ask your preference. Would you like to try to take a hold of the steering wheel and share your presentation, or would you like me to turn it on for you?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share for mine, Paul. Thank you. Appreciate the
You're
introduction.
welcome.
All right. Get this up and running. All right, hopefully everybody can see that. Yeah, so my name is George Waring. I work for the city of Kalamazoo as a senior civil engineer. Just wanted to give you all some pretty big updates we have for the city of Kalamazoo. We're really looking at the next 20 years and setting up for it within Kalamazoo for their bike infrastructure growth, but all modes of non-motorized as well. So that includes pedestrian and also throw transit in there as well. So the major driver behind this for the city of Kalamazoo is that we've come up with a Kalamazoo Streets Design Manual. So this manual is something we're using for city streets as we go forward into design. We've provided it to all of our consulting firms currently doing design for us. We are incorporating these practices, and really the purpose of this manual is as indicated here. It provides best practices and consistency in how streets are designed, built, maintained, and it really provides us clear standards and guidance and supports a more robust and transparent decision-making process, and ensures that public infrastructure investments are well aligned with community values and needs. So really based off that, that's really this overall arching statement behind the design manual, and I'll kind of break down some key points in that. So the design manual is built around street typology. So that's really looking at each street and providing it with a typology. So what is that street meant to be? So you'll see in the upper left-hand corner there, an urban center street has a different need to it than perhaps a enhanced neighborhood street, as you see in the lower left. And based on those, you're going to prioritize different modes of transportation. So it really helps us align what the street's used for and then designing from outside in. So rather than designing the street to move vehicles 100% of the time, we're looking more at what is the street meant to be, and then allowing the modes of transportation to all share that used space. So based on the street type, since we're talking about bicycles this week and specifically here, bicycles are either high, moderate, or low priority users. And you'll notice in all of these that they are equal or greater than vehicle modes of transportation in each of these typologies. So I'll kind of work through these. So in enhanced neighborhood street, bicycles are one of the highest priorities along with pedestrians and curbside usage, where you see vehicles and commercial activities low, which makes sense. In a neighborhood, you have mostly residential users. You don't want people going fast. You want low vehicle volumes, low priority to them. You want to really up the rest. City connector streets, you want vehicles, transit, and bicycles to all be able to use those together and safely. And then pedestrians are always given the highest priority in each of these street typologies. And then in event or festival street, you don't necessarily want people in the same place. You're going to be having a bunch of pedestrians and a bunch of commercial activity. So you may just put those lower on the priority use. If you can fit them in, great. But if not, that street's main purpose is to be more of an event street. So you want to keep really vehicles, bicycles, transit off that street as much as possible. So that's how we think through some of that design typology. Now, the reason why that's important is because we are using the street design manual in multiple projects. So as you have all heard, we have the Kalamazoo two-way conversion coming up, which we are very excited about and looking forward to as a city after we took over jurisdictional transfer streets from MDOT. We are looking forward to, as a city, being able to turn them into streets that fit the city and the typology of those streets. So for those streets downtown, making those two-way and making those fit the businesses and the uses that people would have for those streets, including bicycles, including pedestrians, metro transit, and really making them welcoming places and boosting business down there. So some of the current projects that are using it right now is Stadium Drive realignment, which is currently underway. Apologize for all the construction cones and traffic out there, but it is for a good purpose. Main thing with that, because of the street typology, we are moving bicycles off of the main roadway because of how that street should function. So there's going to be a shared use pathway on the north side. And there's going to be a center landscape median that really provides some traffic calming effects to the traffic along Stadium. So it's a more welcoming corridor. Whites and West Edge resurfacing. We reference the design manual every single conversation we have with our consultants. And we're looking at cohesive on-street bike facilities with that. Our downtown streets projects as well. So this would be Kalamazoo Avenue, Douglas and Main, Michigan Avenue South, and Lovell are all having these same considerations going into them based on where they're at in design. Other additions for this year that aren't on this list, but using the same sort of thought process is we're looking at some pretty easy ones to finish up some of this bike infrastructure with. We have a couple local streets like Broadway Avenue and Chevy Chase Avenue in the Oakland Winchell neighborhood that are major through streets for the neighborhood, but providing good connections to other corridors. We're making those to be enhanced neighborhood streets with bicycle facilities on them, some mini traffic circles and some traffic calming effects. So we're excited about that. Fulford Street, Factory Street, Rose Street, Wallace Avenue are also going to get bike lane additions this year as well, which we're very excited about. And then we are attempting to get West Engine Park, major sections of those to be resealed and then restriped with some bike facilities for both a traffic calming effect and then also to give bicycles safe passage through those two major streets in our city. So this is what the existing bike infrastructure looks like from a Google Earth image KMZ file. So you can see where we're at. And I'm going to give you just a quick look of where we're trying to go in the future with Kalamazoo bike infrastructure. So really we're going from a loose infrastructure, but really trying to make up a lot of these connections. Just like Megan was talking, there's some major streets in here that we're wanting to make key connections to. So thank you all for your time and appreciate being able to share that with you.
George, that was a fantastic overview of the logic of what you're doing and how it's going to hang together due to that logic. It'll be really exciting to see the progress that you guys are making in the city as we move along. And speaking of progress, if Libby Heiny-Cogswell or a representative from Oshtemo is here, yes, I see Libby, your name is here. I'd like to introduce Libby's work with the Oshtemo Fruitbelt rail trail. So Libby, if you'd like, I can turn on your presentation or you can take over yourself.
Good afternoon, Paul. I think I can share what I have here. Let me see. Yes.
Libby is the supervisor of Oshtemo Township and a major supporter of multimodal transportation and a big friend to bicycling in the area.
Okay, so can everybody see the Fruitbelt Trail Development slide here?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, what is the Fruitbelt? These are images from the early 1900s. It was a rail line that ran from Kalamazoo to South Haven, Michigan. We're going to talk about the big picture of the Fruitbelt at first, and then we'll hone in on what Oshtemo Township is doing for a portion of that. And as you're aware, Southwest Michigan is a great place to grow fruit, and this was a line that transported that fruit along that corridor from South Haven to Kalamazoo. And this is a picture of one of the rail line tickets. So what's the big idea? This is where it gets exciting to me. In this image, you can see the Calhaven Trail on the north in the KRVT in the gold and green lines. The Fruitbelt rail corridor extends from South Haven in the red and then changes to blue and circles back to Kalamazoo. So the big idea is to eventually complete the entirety of the Fruitbelt line as another trail, a rail corridor trail. And the part of it is already owned by the DNR, the red part on the west side from South Haven to Hartford. The DNR already owns all of that extent of the corridor. Oshtemo Township has recently acquired the corridor that's in the oval there at the bottom right of the screen. It's about a 2-mile stretch of the corridor. So eventually, when this is built out, I'm going to talk in a positive, affirmative voice here. There'll be this 75-mile roughly loop from Kalamazoo to South Haven. Oshtemo Township's Go Green 2017 plan shows the concepts for non-motorized in the community. And the oval there at the bottom shows the location of the Fruitbelt Trail. It's at the south side of the township, adjacent to Texas Township. And you can also see on the north in the blue line, that's the Calhaven Trail that abuts the northeast corner, or that goes through the northeast part of the township. It's a great amenity. So we're excited to add another wonderful trail amenity to the south portion of the township. I'm zooming in little by little on the trail, and this is the extent. 9th Street is on the east side of the image, and the boundary with Texas Township is on the west. Texas Township does have it in their master plan to continue the trail toward Matawan. They were not, it was not their highest priority, so we didn't join forces at this time, but I'm confident that it will happen later. Flesher Field Park on 9th Street is that gold triangle there that you see on the east side. We've applied to the DNR for 2 grants, Phase 1 and Phase 2. We applied just this year. We'll find out in December. And the first phase is to complete the trail from roughly Flesher Field to just east of 6th Street, and then, or 7th Street, just east of 7th Street. And then Phase 2 is to complete the trail to the Texas Township border. This is an overall plan of the Fruitbelt, and the trailhead, as mentioned, will be at Flesher Field Park, adjacent to Chime School. There's plans for an additional small parking lot at South 6th Street, and then there are considerations for steep slopes and adding fences along the corridor as well. And these are some zoomed in images of the trail then and what it looks like. It actually looks a lot like the Calhaven Trail. We've obtained a grant from consumers, one of their Planet Awards in 2022, $150,000 to work with the Kalamazoo Nature Center to remove invasive species and to work to rehabilitate the ecology, the plant systems in this corridor. And this shows the corridor in a couple different seasons. People are already using it. Before the township acquired the property in late 2021, but people were already using it. People that knew about it, that lived adjacent, etc. So this now it will be open to the public, and this shows a winter scene, people cross-country skiing, and then a fall scene. So, and one of our volunteers. So that's it. We're very excited.
Thank you, Libby. And as someone who sat in on many of the public meetings, as you were seeking approvals and citizen input, I want to congratulate Oshtemo on how open and transparent its process has been and how quickly your team adjusted to input and ideas that the citizens had for ways to improve Oshtemo's approach. And with that, speaking of communities that are really looking ahead into the future for bicycling, I want to ask my friend Bill Adams, the former president of the Village of Vicksburg, if he would like me to try to get his presentation on the screen, or whether
I'll let you do it, Paul.
Okay. I think I can.
You can do it?
Yeah, I can definitely do it. Just give me a moment to flip back to where I can get my launch pad back up on the screen.
And I'll just give a few comments while we're getting it up there. As Paul said, I'm the past village president for Vicksburg. Small community versus anybody else in this audience, only 3,700 people. I'm recognized as the head of the bike committee by the village council still. I'm going to give you an overview of the history, some of the current events going on with biking in the village of Vicksburg, and where we may be headed in the future. So with that, I'll have you put the first slide up. A decade ago, Kathleen, Hoyle will remember we were doing strategic planning in the village of Vicksburg. And we worked with hundreds of people in the community, the DDA, the chamber, the village staff, the schools. And we thought we had a strategic plan about done. And our village manager said, hey, if we want to make this a wow community, why don't we go to the school kids and get their input on what we should do? And I naturally said, no, they don't have any good ideas. It's not worth talking to the kids. And what we're going to raise the expectations and we're not going to be able to deliver. And he says, don't worry about it. And we used the Boy Scouts to survey the middle school people. And the students did come up with their crazy ideas. A McDonald's in the village of Vicksburg, which was disallowed by ordinance, Kool-Aid water fountains, pizza every day for lunch, free French fries whenever you wanted them, a skateboard rink, 50 ideas, and an idea to have a trail from Vicksburg to Portage, Michigan. Well, Kathleen was working on it with us at that time, and she'll remember we raised about $350,000 and completed a trail and a trailhead in Vicksburg all the way up to the city limits of Portage. In 2019, that slide right now we're looking at, we had the inaugural fall bike celebration in Vicksburg, where we took visits to the quilt trails, about a 30-mile tour. We rode down to Shipshewana, the Scotts Mill Ponds, Climax Scotts, and we started an art prize contest for biking banners, which would be on the light poles of various communities. We gave $1,000 first place prize and $500 to the second and about $100 to the third. Those banners now are being purchased by communities across the United States, the first of which was San Diego, California. We had ice cream social, and through the community, we raised about $18,000 to help fund charitable organization and biking activities. Next slide is today, we're planning the Fall Bike Festival September 16th through the 18th. We're looking for long-term growth of biking. And I'll be so bold to say right now, we've talked about breaking some of the Guinness Book of Records relative to biking. And I think it can be done in Kalamazoo County. Our biking event this year will be launched from the historic village. The Shipshawana trip has been extended to a century ride. And we still have the Quilt Trail, the Climax Scott's Mill Ponds, and a half dozen other places that people can go. This year, as Patrick Hershberger told us, we're going to have an art murals. And I'm looking to have probably 3 of those in South County in the Vicksburg area. And I think we've already got interested parties in Portage and other places. So I'm looking at 3 to 6 murals that will be in our communities for bikers and pedestrians and everybody to look at when they go down the road. Duncan Sawyer, as we've heard, is heading up the All Kids Ride program for the state of Michigan. And we hope that Duncan will work with us this fall and we'll have a bike rodeo and be giving away free safety lights, bike helmets, and training to the young bikers. I threw this in on the last line. Kathleen always wanted a bakery in the village of Vicksburg, and now we have McKinsey's Bakery, which sells out every day, 500 customers. Next slide is just some of the infrastructure projects. The trails completed up to Portage. We're talking about an east-west bike trail from Vicksburg over to Schoolcraft and up 131 where the trail next to the railroad tracks. We've got a $100 million concert center being planned for the old mill, and we're working this summer. We'll be working on a bike trail that'll go through the village of Vicksburg and Clark Park over to the mill. Next slide just shows that we started the recreational trail. The bike path went through there in 2020. Next slide. We started with substrate on the old railroad beds going from the south to the north. Next slide. We installed nice, pristine asphalt for the bikers. Next slide. I like biking on old railroad beds. Beautiful scenery, and for me, it's very, very safe. Next slide. You can see we're just a small part of that big network everybody else has talked about, but we're a nice launching pad and a wonderful event for the fall. Next slide. Our bike path goes through our recreational parks. We've already started our artwork, our murals on our buildings in the rec park, and we have a world championship disc golf course there. Next slide. With our mini grants, we got 2 mini grants last year, one for bike racks and one for safety lights front and back of kids' bikes. Those will be awarded with our police department and our school system this fall is the hope. And the last slide is just a picture of some of those new bike racks. That's it, Paul.
Thank you, Bill. That was really good. Show that a community that has a plan based on where its citizens want to go over time can achieve some really great things. And we're really glad to have you pushing for all of that. And with that, I'm going to go now to the Director of County Parks, Recreation, and our Expo Center for all of Kalamazoo County. David Rachowicz has probably got some of the most experience of anyone in the room, maybe with the exception of Dick Skalski, on implementing things that are bike friendly. And in David's case, it's certainly multimodal friendly because his work, along with many others in the Friends of the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail and citizen support, have made a lot of progress on one of the first or second trails in the area and a critical link in the lake to lake trail all the way across the state of Michigan. So David, I'll ask you whether you would like to take over the presentation now, or should I pull your presentation up for you?
Yeah, I think I can bring it up, Paul.
Okay, take it away.
Okay, did that work?
Yes, it did.
All right,
Right
so
up.
I'll be pretty quick. I got a few slides I want to just cover and highlight. Just real quick, the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail. Today we have 25 miles of trail complete. And we are currently, we also focused on the overall regional connections. It's great to hear the, city of Portage and Vicksburg and the city of Kalamazoo talking about these, linking all these trail networks together. We are excited that there'll be, well over 150 miles of trail way connected as we continue to make these connections throughout our community. And then even thinking beyond our county regionally, we are very close to connecting to Battle Creek. You saw the Fruitbelt Trail connection, the Calhaven Trail connection. So again, looking at sort of that regional aspect and really maximizing the benefits. And, one of the things that I think you see in like the city of Portage or our trail system, we're really bringing parks to people, close to people. So it's not only transportation, it's also recreation, and then really connecting people to the places that they want to go or be. I want to give a quick update on the sections we've been working on, and I guess share a little frustration that's going to be pretty common in the trail world. We are hung up currently with Amtrak. So we had planned for trail through Galesburg, and our plan was to continue about a 4.5 mile section to Augusta. There's 2 rail crossings that we need from Amtrak. The railway is actually owned by the state of Michigan, MDOT. It's leased back to Amtrak. We did the DSTR. We received the orders and permits for construction, and then when we went to actually build the trail segment, Amtrak balked at it and would not allow us to build that section of trail. So we continue to work with MDOT. It does not look like there's much of a short-term solution to get that crossing over those rail crossings. We are crossing at existing road crossings. We're not creating separate crossings, so it seems like it would be fairly simple. The other reality is we know that people are currently walking and biking across these connections, so it seems a no-brainer that anything you do is going to make it safer for people than just sort of turning a blind eye to it. So we're sort of in a regroup phase right now to try and figure out how we proceed. And we very well may proceed with completing from the high school to Augusta, and then figuring out we either do temporary routes around those rail crossings or use the roadways just for those very short stints. But we're hoping to have that sort of wrapped up and be able to complete that last 4.5 miles of trail that will really complete the original vision of the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail. And I think one of the things we're excited about is it will give us the opportunity to then focus on some new projects and new trail segments in the county. And then real quick, I just, talking to the biking world, I just wanted to give a quick update. Many of you may bike out at the Maple Hill Trail out of Mark and Glen. The Park Commission just approved an extension of that trail. So you can see the colored lines there in the center. Those are some new trail segments that SWMBA is going to be building here that will be able to be ridden this summer. So it'll be about a 1/2 mile of additional trail. But again, a great bicycle facility in our community. And one of the really cool things about it is how many people bike there, either on the roadway or on the CARA-VT, and all the connections to get out there and use that great facility. That's all I got. Thank you.
Well, Dave, what you've got is quite a lot, and I sure appreciate you taking the time to bring us up to speed on it. With that, I just want to give one last shout out to Dave, because it was the work of Chris Tracy and the County Parks and Recreation and the Friends of the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail that started Kalamazoo Bike Week 11 years ago. And so this is our 11th year for Kalamazoo Bike Week. There were enough of us diehards who believed in the future of cycling around so that when Monica Trey's original grant was over and we had the first Kalamazoo Bike Week, well, some of us just wanted to keep it going, and Dave Rachowicz has been right there every step of the way, supporting the entire effort. So Dave, again, thanks, and thanks to all the speakers and presenters today for such great insights into where we're headed in 2022 and the future. And even though it may be a little bit past an optimistic end time, I'd like to turn it over to everybody who's still here to ask whatever questions or make any comments that you have for the speakers. And you don't have to show your hands. We're down to few enough people, so just unmute and ask anybody what you would like. Well, I'm the kind of person who says going once, going twice. I'll try to encourage anybody who has any questions one last time. With that, I want to thank everybody for all the work you're doing to help our greater community become even more bicycle friendly. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the events, as many as you can with Kalamazoo Bike Week. I'm headed to the bike rodeo right now that the city of Kalamazoo is putting on. There are 2 rides that are taking place tonight yet, and there are many other events Thursday, Friday, and Saturday through the end of Bike Week. I hope to see you around.
Paul, thank you for putting this together, and thanks for all the speakers who updated the rest of us on the details around the community. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good one.
Megan is my co-host. I'm going to just ask if you'd like to say a word before we stop the recording.
Just want to say thank you to all the speakers today for their presentations, and thank you for everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of Bike Week.
Thanks, Megan. It's been a pleasure being a co-host with you again this year.
Always.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.